Hey, Baruch Levi B here from Soul Centered. Thanks for tuning in. I'm excited to continue the conversation with you about what I call the Defiance spirit and the work around the Enneagram that I am doing a lot of Enneagram work in my own life, but also guiding clients, really synthesizing, integrating logotherapy, the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl, author of Man's Search for Meaning and father of meaning-centered psychotherapy, together with the Enneagram, and really bringing these two great traditions together because they go hand in glove. The Enneagram on its own is so misunderstood. You know, people use it as another system, right? And start to kind of worship the system. We can worship any system and it becomes static. It becomes stale. I see it over and over again. And I'll tell you how I see it, because people start believing they are their Enneagram number. If you don't know the Enneagram, Ennea means 9 and gram means picture. And so it's this picture in front of you. The little nuances are mine, but basically the Enneagrams are always the same. And you have these 9 basic energy types. People start saying, I am an 8. Right? If you're doing that, then you're stuck. You've missed the Enneagram. It's supposed to be fluid, living, dynamic, because you're not a number. Right? Thesis of Dr. Frankl: you are never a number. Never reduce yourself to a number. Never be reduced to a number. And numbers come in all shapes and sizes, right? I just counseled somebody who's struggling with their weight, and they've been struggling with it for the past 50 years. That's a number that becomes a prison for them. I don't want you to live in a prison. I want you to be liberated from your prisons, whether it's your weight, whether it's money, whether it's Facebook likes, whether it's, I mean, the list goes on and on. So much of our world, what Dr. Frankl would say, reduces us to a place of reaction. So the work that I'm doing is helping people stop reacting and start responding to their lives. That's why you're here. That's freedom. That's the work of Dr. Frankl, and we can not be used by the Enneagram to liberate ourselves. And nothing is more important than liberating ourselves from fear. So that's what I want to talk to you today about, because if you want to see a previous video I did on the holy idea, each of us comes from a point from heaven, the divine, the world beyond, whatever you want to call it. And it's the holy idea. And each of us at a different number has a different holy idea. Watch that video. However, this is a world that is incredibly complicated. I don't have to tell you, turn on the news. Look at what's happening in Ukraine. We've gone from complicated to dark, disturbing, destructive, any other D's I can throw in there, disgusting. The world is a scary place. And we know this from the moment we come out, which is why babies come out screaming. It was nice and warm and safe in there. You're born into a world where the fears kick in and we start reacting. And we start reacting in a basic pattern, in a basic way. Choose your own adventure, because you're going to choose a fear. It's part of the reality. It's natural, but we're not here to be natural. We're here to be supernatural. You don't got to put on tights and a cape. If you do, no judgment, right? Do your thing, but you don't have to, because super means go beyond and natural is your nature. Go beyond your nature. Go beyond your fear. Don't accept it or resign yourself to it because this is the way I'm built. This is the way I am. The Enneagram would say that's the way you default. That's where you, as Dr. Frankl would say, react, but you don't have to react. You can respond, but you gotta know your default. You gotta know the settings. You gotta know the hardwiring. So which of these are you? Because you're gonna be one of them. You're going to have a default of fear. Let's go around the Enneagram and I'll take you through the fears. We'll start at 1. So the 1, the reformer, and we all have all of these in us, by the way. So listen to them and hear which one is really your core fear, but understand that each one of these is within you, just to varying degrees. So the reformer comes from a place, the holy idea, remember, of perfection. So when they're in this world, they start to see the world through the lens of imperfection. That is a fear. Now, to me, I'm an 8. At least I react like an 8. That's the proper way to say it. I understand perfection. I understand the drive for imperfection, but that's sort of unfair because for a one, it is not something, it's everything. For me, it's nice. Like if I could have this perfect Facebook Live for you, great. But if I can't, I'll just throw at you what I got because that's how I operate. For a one, they would almost be horrified to put out anything that isn't perfect. So there's this core fear underneath everything, and they see the world of what is missing from a perfection point of view. You got to face that. It's natural. You got to defy that. How do you defy it? That'll be another video. But for now, it's enough to identify core fear, imperfection that really sucks the oxygen out of my soul. You might very well be a one if, in fact, that's how you feel. The Enneagram 2. So the Enneagram 2, the helper, is here to connect, relationship, love. They just live for other, which is beautiful, but also can be destructive. I would say not most, a good percentage of my clients are twos, because oftentimes you get to the afternoon of life, the second half of life, and a two, he or she, and lots of twos are she's, will say, it's time for me. It's time for me to tend to myself, right? It's not selfish, it's self-centered, and I want to get self-centered. I want to take care of me. And so the work that a two has to do really is around love and feeling loved even when they're not giving, especially when they're not giving. Feeling love because they're worthy of love, not because of what they can give. So if this kind of really starts to irk something in you, pull on your soul strings, then you might very well be an Enneagram 2, struggling with constantly and continuously feeling feeling unloved. Now, everybody has this. So, you really have to go deeper than this to figure out your Enneagram type, but it's a good starting point and certainly something to grapple with. For an Enneagram 2, it revolves around feeling unloved. Enneagram 3 energy is all about achievement. These are the winners in our society. These are the prom kings and the prom queens and the CEOs. Certainly you can come in every profession and shape, size, and form, but they win. Sometimes at all costs. Sometimes they lose themselves in the process of winning, which then begs the question, is that winning? Is that success? A 3 really grapples with the fear of failure because winning means worthy of love. Failure means unworthy of love. So it's not so different than a 2, but it's masked differently. Whereas a 2 wants to show their love and be loved through connection, a 3 wants to do it through achievement, conquest, success. A 4's grapple, the individualist grapples with feeling inadequate, feeling like they're not worthy because they're not special. I think of the Lego movie, right? The specials, this constant longing, if you don't keep it in check as a 4, to always feel like you need to prove your specialness, prove your worthiness. And if not, you feel inadequate. That is the fear of a 4. So 4s really have to stand guard against that and understand that they're worthy, that they're special because they're a child of the divine, because they are a unique fingerprint, they're a unique soul print, and that is enough. But this is the struggle of a fear around originality and individuality, called the individualist. A 5, going into this energy, really shifting gears. 4 and 5 are worlds apart. 5 is called the investigator, moving into the head center. The other was the heart center. And 5s are very much the head center. 5s come into this world with this desire to know everything. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is their oxygen. Not just knowledge, but truly knowing at the deepest level, this biblical idea of knowing, which is a word for intimacy, almost an intimacy with the divine through the power of knowledge. So you can imagine not knowing, feeling like they're ignorant, like they're on the outside of knowledge or information, is terrifying to a 5. 5s are terrified of being in the not know. You know what I mean? The other piece of that, it's not on here, is 5s are terrified of being depleted, of losing their resources, giving up their resources, or having their resources redirected away from the quest for knowing. 6, moving around the Enneagram, is the loyalist. The loyalist is what we would call fear. Maybe it's more of an anxiety, but really a 6 is driven by this constant and continual anxiety, feeling unsafe in the world. Look, the world is unsafe. It is. Turn on the news. Look at what's happening all over the world. But even prior to Ukraine, you're on a rock, right? It's in the middle of outer space. It's spinning on its axis around a hot ball of fire we call the sun, and we're waiting to die. Like, I don't mean to be dramatic, but the whole damn thing is pretty unsafe. However, we filter that. We filter it. We don't pay attention to it. A 6 has a much harder time filtering out the threats, especially if they're unaware or in reaction. And so their work is to take back their power and own what they can. And what you can own is what Dr. Frankel said, your response to your circumstances, standing guard against fear. I'd say 6 is probably the largest percentage of us, and especially today. Thanks, Madden. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So moving to 7, the enthusiast. You know you know when you're around an enthusiast because they're the life of the party. They're big personalities. They're fun. They're no worries, right? That saying definitely came from a 7, an Enneagram 7. No worries. Now that comes from a place, it can come from a good place, but sometimes it comes from a place of dishonesty or hiding. And what are they hiding from? Suffering. 7s are running, if they're not careful, if they're not conscious, they're running from suffering. So where it looks like they're good time Charlie, really they're afraid of stopping and facing the pain and the realities of their life. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you walk around saying no worries and there's something to be worried about. Isn't it interesting? 6 and 7 are neighbors. They're worlds apart, which is how the Enneagram works. We'll go into it another time because it's a yin and a yang effect. It's a positive and a negative kind of charge. So you go from worry, and it's all worries, and they got to bring in 7 into their life, the 6, of less worries and less fear. And the 7s actually have to worry more. They have to get into that and become comfortable with the anxiety. And once you start naming it, you can tame it, right? You can't tame it till you name it. 7's got to start identifying it and seeing it and understanding that they're driving forward while looking in the rearview mirror. Actually, they're driving forward, not looking in the rearview mirror. 7s are all about the future, the horizon. You need to look in the rearview mirror. You need to look around you and see what's going on. Last but not least, my type, the Enneagram 8, the challenger. Definitely a difficult type. Ask Ariella, she'll tell you, my wife, she'll tell you very much. So partially it comes from this place of we're probably the most intense type, us and maybe the 3s, maybe the 7s, but 8 probably the most intense type. And it comes from this place of wanting to bring truth and justice to the world at its best. But when I'm in reaction, when an 8 goes into fear, my fear is vulnerability because it's a big, scary world out there. And I feel vulnerable. It's oftentimes less about me than the people around me. And I go into reaction. And instead of flight, I go into fight. And I do a lot of damage when I go into fight mode. And there's a big difference for an 8 between fighting and pursuing a worthy cause, even if it's intense, even if there is a fight behind it. One is coming from a place of reaction and one is coming from a place of response. And that's the point. We are not animals. I love animals. I have 3 running around this house, but they have no freedom. They have no free will. They have no ability to choose their response. They have no ability to say, I'm in fear. This is my core fear. And I know that it's driving me right now. And I don't want the cart to drive the horse. I want the horse to drive the cart. I want to be the one choosing how not to react, how not to go into fight or freeze or flight. I want to take back the power of my life. And that begins by understanding that there is fear in you. It is natural. It will arise as the circumstances do. You don't have to be a victim of your circumstances, says the Enneagram and teaches Dr. Frankel. And really back to Ending how I began, the defiant spirit is your choice to bring this spirit up from within you. It is the true you. It is the authentic you. It is your spirit. It is, Dr. Frankel would call the nous. It is what is supposed to be driving the bus. All you have to do is return to it and choose it. And that's how you defy your number. Stop reacting to the world and start responding to your life. That's the work of the Defiant Spirit. That's what I do. I would love to hear from you. I would love to connect with you. I have a lot of things going on around the Defiant Spirit on the website. I've got a very quick and easy way to get into it. You take a free Enneagram assessment and you book a half-hour discovery call with me, and I will talk you through the nuts and bolts of the Enneagram. I have a limited amount of clients that I take on, so this is a good way just to kind of get into the rhythm of the Enneagram, and I can give you some quick direction and some lay of the land and get you going in this truly powerful, transformative system. I have studied systems, spiritual systems, psychological systems, philosophical systems. This is the finest system I have ever found to give me practical, actionable tools to defy my circumstances, to live that true, deeper part of me, my true self, in a very pragmatic, practical way. So would love to hear from you. Jump over to, you can actually just Google now defiancespirit.org and you'll get my website, or you can go to My Soul Centered and learn more. Love to hear from you. Until the next time, shalom, salam, namaste, and peace.